average person out there does exactly the opposite. They try adding authorized users. And for a lot of real estate people on here listening, so the analogy that I would give that's similar to that is like putting lipstick on a pig. At the end of the day, the banks can still see, well, dude, you still have derogatory, delinquent, a bunch of nasty, old, outdated personal information. So that's why we always like to fix first. And just like you said, whether you're in the 800 club or the 300 club, it doesn't matter. The difference is when you're in the high 700s or 800 FICO score, it takes less of your time, about 5-10 minutes on each bureau, to fix or improve your credit profile, meaning removing some of the old, outdated personal information.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Experiment Nation, I just had a gentleman on this show that I truly respect and admire. He happens to be one of my many coaches. I believe you should have a coach and a specialist in every single avenue that you're taking very seriously, where you're looking to have mastery. And you have a toothache, you go to the dentist, not your physical therapist, right? So for that reason, I have a credit, business credit, all things credit coach who came on our show by the name of Brandon Elliott of Credit Counsel, where he's helped us unlock funds to allow us to strategically invest in our real estate by pulling levers and again, increasing your credit so that you can unlock many more opportunities. That's business credit, that's personal credit, that's private money. That's even if you're going to get a traditional loan, the amount of money you can save by having a lower interest rate because of your credit is king. And it's one thing that you can certainly count on being able to leverage. Once you have strong credit, a lot of large doors will open. In this episode, we talked about the mindset around money, the mindset around keeping money and then keeping high interest loans, the mindset around what kind of, what credit is good credit, what is bad credit, is all credit created equal, the type of credit that's out there, how it can unlock real estate opportunities by having credit available, how you can actually use it to buy real estate, all of the above, and the amount that you can unlock. Being part of this mastermind, you can unlock, I've unlocked more than 6 figures of income, anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, $500,000 of credit, whether it's 0% business credit to other credit forms that can be leveraged. And it's just such an important tool that you're as good as the steward. If you have to be a steward of your money, number one, but you're as good as the information that that's available out there for you to be able to unlock this kind of credit. So I wanted to definitely highlight and have my coach come in, because he completely changed my paradigm on how I look at money, how I look at credit, and how I leverage it for my businesses. With that said, Experiment Nation, you'll want to take out a pencil, a notepad, and possibly play this a couple times back. This is someone that I admire, someone that's helped us unlock a lot of the big projects we have going on at this time when you're listening to this. And if you listen to the show, once you learn this, you cannot unlearn it. So you want to get your pen, get your notepad, you know the drill, and let's build, y'all. Real Estate Experiment, what is happening, y'all? Today, I have the pleasure of having a gentleman that I truly admire and respect, and I've gotten a chance to hang out with in the past 12 months, really. And he happens to be a leader in his community, which I happen to be a part of, where he has a mastermind where he really teaches the foundational principles of credit to then fix, to then be able to build, to then unlock again your endeavors. And he happens to also be a real estate investor himself. So when I think of having a true practitioner coming to the lab, this is why I got the white coat, because this man not only talks the talk, but he also walks the walk, and he uses real estate as a vehicle, but credit as a tool. So without further ado, I want to respectfully welcome Brandon Elliott of Credit Counsel to the lab. What's happening, Brandon?
What's up, bro? How we doing today? Appreciate
Hey
you.
man, I'm fantastic, man. I'm very, very happy that you're on for today. It's well overdue, but I want to make sure I had my receipts personally before I had you in my
Yeah.
lab. But also as a big before we start, I wanted to give you your flowers on the air because I invest a lot into myself, a lot of different programs, a lot of different masterminds, and I have to say your authenticity that you bring to the table and care and patience, man. Like I see it all the time on the call. Some things you maybe repeated even for the 10th, 100th time. You're just you and Steven and the whole crew and the team, you just truly care. And that makes a difference, right? Because anytime you invest in these high ticket programs, it's about the transformation on the other side, and you truly care and make sure that everybody gets the tools to take themselves to the next level. And obviously it takes one to do that, but you're there to support. So I want to give your flowers on the air and say how much I respect, appreciate you and what you're doing with the brand out there with Credit Counsel, man. It's amazing stuff.
I appreciate you, bro. Means a lot. It
Absolutely.
wasn't. It was a long time in the making doing all this stuff, and like you said originally, like real estate changed my life, but
Yeah.
credit was the catalyst to do it. So very grateful
Mm.
to be able to spread the word and help others do the same.
Yeah, so let's do just that. So let one of the things my mentors tells or at least it's a principle that he shares with which I think you'll appreciate. He says that all principles are microcosms of each other, right? Which means that in any domain, if there's a principle, it's going to be true, right? Gravity, etc., whatever the case might be. So you take those principles and you say, hey, before you're going to build your credit, everyone wants to build and get out, hit the ground running. You say, no, we're going to fix it first. Tell us why, tell the listeners why it's so important to even, and you say regardless whether you're 700, 600, 500, 800, there's
Yeah.
always something to fix. Tell us why that's so critical and important for those who might be listening or might be thinking, no, I'm good, I got it.
Yeah, the average person out there does exactly the opposite. They try adding authorized users, and for a lot of real estate people on here listening, so the analogy that I would give that's similar to that is like putting lipstick on a pig. At the end of the day, the banks can still see, well, dude, you still have derogatory, delinquent, a bunch of nasty, old, outdated personal information. So that's
Mhm.
why we always like to fix first. And just like you said, whether you're in the 800 club or the 300 club, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The difference is when you're in the high 700s or 800 FICO score, it takes less of your time to, about 5-10 minutes on each bureau to fix or improve your credit profile, meaning removing some of the old, outdated personal information. As silly as that may seem, the more info that you have on there or inconsistencies or
Mhm.
things that may be attached to something that could pop up or something negative, derogatory, something that could hold you back, it usually is found within the personal info. So getting rid of the employer info doesn't need to be on there. Any phone numbers, any known as names, any old outdated addresses, like you want to have consistency across the board, and less is more when it comes down to your personal info.
Mm. Okay, so
So
we get into
always,
the go ahead.
always,
Mhm.
always fix that stuff first, and then you move on to build. Like you boost up
Yeah.
the scores, then you get the funding.
Yeah, which is it's like laying the foundation, right? Because it's like I think a lot of folks they come in they want to okay, what am I applying first? And you're like, hold
Yeah.
up, we're before we even start applying. And you know what's fascinating? It's what I appreciate of this is to anybody who's listening is when you have a paradigm that this is the thing you should be doing. Like for the longest time, you have no idea. Before this, I'm like, yeah, I did have one of the principles, right? Always ask for money when you don't need it, but I wasn't doing it the right way, right? I was doing it on a personal side, and I had no idea about the whole like hard inquiry, being able to remove it before the account is open. Like I was just gunning, right? And so, and as real estate investors, we're also constantly getting these mortgages, etc. And if we don't know how to remove that, that sticks with us for quite some time, doesn't it? And it impacts us.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any hard inquiries that you have on there, especially the last 6 months, the banks are very jealous banks, like they're
Mhm.
very territorial. And so if they see that you've been talking to these other banks or getting funding, that then they're going to label you as searching for too much credit, quote unquote,
Mhm.
and then they don't want to deal with you. So that's why when we do what we call a mass apply, which is simply an application sequence when done correctly, you can get up to 90% approval odds. You can also get up to 500K, and you can repeat this process per person every 6 months. And that's where, you'll stop getting those excuses.
Yeah. Love that. So you yourself, or you have like 14 plus million dollars of assets in real estate. You started from what I believe is back in what, 2015ish. Is
Yeah.
that how far back we're going?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many doors did you start with? Was it one single door and then you went to a triplex, I think it was? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I ended up buying a single family house, and then 2 months later to the day, I got a triplex. And thank God, because the triplex, it needed less work and it came with a tenant already. Then I filled the other 2 units, and that cash flowed enough for me to be able to pay both payments.
Mm.
And I made so many mistakes on the first property. I went through 5 different contractors. It took over a year to get renovated when it should have took like 90 days, like 60 days to 90 days. And so I wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of time, but luckily the cash flow from the triplex, it kept me alive. And then within the next year afterwards, we had 10 income producing properties. Um, and that kind of just started the journey.
What was the well, I'll ask you one question. Number one is, originally, did you have back then this knowledge of credit, or were you doing it the traditional way? And what was that process for you?
No, man, this is how I got into. I needed the credit.
Yeah.
I came from just humble backgrounds of like American poor, like quote unquote American, like still blessed by all means, but
Yeah.
not like out of the country poor.
Mhm.
Um, because we grew up on food stamps, Section 8 housing, local support from churches and schools, but still it was about $1,000 a month from Social Security, and like powdered milk. So disgusting stuff. And
Yeah.
so, I didn't have the family or the friends. I didn't even think anybody would ever trust me or give me, like, I didn't have anybody in my circle that would give me any money for anything. So I just naturally assumed I would have to go to the banks, but I had a poor mindset around money and finances. So I was like cheap as hell. I'm like, all right, well, if I have to get money from the bank, um, you know, how do I get as low as interest rates as possible? And I started seeing some introductory credit cards with 0% interest. And I was like, cool, how long is that for? Okay, cool, 18 months. Okay, now how do I actually get it from the card into cash? How do I get my credit limits higher? And I started just going down this rabbit hole, and some things I just mistakenly did correct, and then other things I had to learn the hard way.
Mhm.
I had a lot of mentors as well. I did a lot of books, podcasts, YouTube. Like I was soaking up as much knowledge, and then I was just going down the rabbit hole of trial and error, and eventually I was able to get those properties, and I did hard money loans in addition to those, um, so that I could only come up like with the first one I paid cash because it was $9,000. It was my
Nice.
first property. It was in the hood. It was $9,000, and I had to put 35K into it. Um,
How'd you get the 35K?
the 9,000 and the 35K I used with the credit card.
You did.
And
Okay, so you're able to liquidate the credit card. That was the first initial play.
yeah, that was the first initial play. And then 2 months
Wow.
later for the triplex, I did a hard money loan that I just needed to come up with 20% or maybe
Sure.
25%.
Yeah.
And again, I use credit cards for that as well.
Okay, so that makes your experiment that much sweeter, because I wasn't sure if you like went traditional first, then you're like had this awakening. You actually, what your foundation was credit card hacking, essentially, into real estate from the
Yeah.
jump.
Yeah, so for 2 years I was studying real estate and I was studying credit stuff because as I was
Mhm.
going down the rabbit hole of real estate, I was like, cool, I fell in love with the BRRRR strategy. And I was like, great, now I know what I'm gonna do because there's 30 plus ways to make money in real estate. So I'm like, so which one am I gonna pick? But I fell in love with this one and I got like excited about it. First time ever in my life. And I was like, ding, 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 that's something, you know?
Mm.
And once I fell in love with it, I was like, cool, where are we going to do this? And so I tried in San Diego, tried in New Jersey, Arizona. I was looking at all these places. Ohio kind of lit up to me. And then after that, it was just kind of the next thing was like, all right, now that I got all these leads coming in, how the hell am I actually going to close on this? Like, I need some money.
Mm.
And that's where it just, I had to figure out the whole banking situation.
So that's so interesting. So, because one of my buddies, and actually, I think you have him on your platform as well, Michael Alfante says, it's all about when people say, well, should I do this first? Should I do that? It's like, well, where do I start? Well, it all
Yeah.
depends on your situation. And it
Yeah.
sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, when I hear Ohio, when I hear Cleveland, all that, so you get in where you fit in, use that as a stepping stone. And then now, from what I understand, you're in like higher appreciation markets. Is that by chance? Did I miss something there? Or is that by design? Or is that just the evolution of kind of your trajectory as an investor?
So being out here in San Diego now, are
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So Ohio, it was more around mindset, and I was trying to get out here for the beginning.
Oh, okay.
For 2 years, I put literally like 35 plus offers, and but I was going against real investors,
Yeah,
like intelligent ones that all cash, stuff that we do now, all cash, no contingencies, close in 7 days.
yeah.
And it was just like it was hard to keep up with that when I was trying to do like FHA financing or like or try to move money around through credit cards. And so once I found Ohio, the numbers were easier for me to grasp, and
Right.
then I started getting cutting my teeth on the process. And then eventually, after we had a bunch of income producing properties over there, I knew it wasn't going to appreciate, but it wasn't going to cash flow. And so I got all my money back doing the BRRRR strategy with the refinances. I found a small local bank in the area to be able to get great terms, great rates, traditional refis. And then after that, I was able to quit my job, my job. And so once I quit that, I started looking for partnerships out here in San Diego, and I was able to do some fix and flips with some partners. But it really got me motivated because it's just a number. And
Mm,
I was working on myself and my mindset to acknowledge like it's just a number and I can
yeah,
compete against these guys. And
yeah.
so people started hearing about me, building the personal brand. We started getting some leads. And then, once we took down and we were just aggressive, quick with these opportunities, everything's $1 million out here, you
Yeah,
know?
no, facts. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it was hard to it was a lot of fear. It was a lot of like
Limiting
sleep.
beliefs a little bit, right? Yeah, you haven't seen that kind of money before.
Yeah.
You and I love how you said it's just a number because what I can appreciate is this is what all the lab is all about, right? Like you have a proof of concept, you work the system, and
Yep.
then when you have that confidence, you just add a couple zeros behind it, and it's the same process, right?
Yep.
But I like that because it's like you get in where you fit in,
Yep.
and then in an ideal situation, you borrow the mental syntax and belief system of again those who've been there before, which is why I believe in mentorship and why
Yep.
I have a coach like yourself in credit because I don't know what I don't know, right? I need that insight and I need to borrow that belief system that if I put something like that on an application, it's actually going to work. Why? Because it's worked for you and so many other people. So, but I want to go back to the real estate part for a second because this is very interesting. So, you and one of the things that recently came up, I think one of my buddies, he had posted this on a social and was like, he had mentioned that cash flow is great, but equity is where the real wealth is built.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, talk about that transition to it wasn't you mentioned it slightly. I want to make sure we capture that. Like it wasn't cash flowing like crazy, but you also understood the exit strategy because that was the big equity play that allowed you to quit your job. Did I paraphrase that correctly? Was
Well,
that the
well,
play?
so over in Ohio, it wasn't going to appreciate, but
Right.
it was going to cash flow. So that once I started making $10,000 plus per month, it was more than what I was making in my normal like I was working restaurant jobs, like dead
Yeah.
end jobs. And so I started getting more like tenant stuff and more like I was gassed up on real estate, and so I wasn't really my heart wasn't in it. And
Yeah.
then eventually I left, and and that was paying the bills, the real estate. But I started looking at deals out here. Out here, it's going to be in San Diego, it's going to be a little different. In many cases, it's actually harder to cash flow unless you're doing
Yeah.
it right. And we like to say we do it right, but it just depends on the season. but the appreciation's crazy.
Yeah, it's
And,
wild.
and then the tax benefits are crazy too, because these are big projects. So it's like, I need a couple $100,000 for tax write-offs, and I can do that with maneuvering around and so forth, and cost segregations.
Cost tags, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so out here, once we actually started focusing on these deals, I mean, dude, I've made close to like $500,000 just off of like flips,
Yeah.
90-day flips, like net
Crazy.
profit. And we just did one last night, a refi, not selling it, but actually keeping it. Refi, have no money into it, and got $620,000.
How
Like,
many bedrooms is that?
we turned it into 2 units. So
Yeah.
bedrooms, upstairs is 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Downstairs it's a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's right in
Wow.
Old Town. So we're gonna do Airbnb, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be amazing.
Yeah. That's the play. I love that. In an ideal situation, you do creative financing on the way in, leverage credit for the furniture, then run it at the STR/MTR. And I feel like or even better, on the upfront, you could even do like a BRRRR and then do the STR/MTR and leverage credit. I mean, there's just so many ways you can combine.
Yeah,
Once there's like the saying, right? Like once you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But like once you have separate tools in your tool belt, you're like, okay, let me just look at this deal a little bit more creatively. Like that's fascinating. I find that fascinating, and that's why I'm so glad you're here.
yeah,
Experiment Nation, you've heard me talk about how multiple investors across the nation are landing these lucrative midterm rental insurance contracts by making these small tweaks on the branding and marketing side, especially if you're an existing short-term rental operator. There is a quick and easy shift that you can make with the ride guide in place. And because we've launched a 2-day boot camp that not everyone could attend in real time, I've put together a recording where you can get all the materials and all the guides to focus on rebranding either your short-term rental business or your current midterm rental business, so that you can actually have the insurance companies reach out to you. And then day 2 is if you want to actually play offense, how you can reach out to them by listing on the right platforms, etc. If you're looking to get this MTR bootcamp so that you can start optimizing and you can start receiving these lucrative contracts that again provide less headaches, less turnovers, unlike the Airbnb space, you can start receiving inquiries today by having the right guide in place. So please go to experimentrealestate.com/MTR bootcamp or click the link in the bio to make sure you get your hands on the midterm rental insurance bootcamp to fast track your way into landing these lucrative insurance contracts the exact same ways multiple investors have taken advantage of this unknown and untapped niche within the midterm rental umbrella.
So let me ask you. So, yeah, one of the biggest lessons that I learned is in 2024 is asking for credit when you don't need it. And another one is another one is, of course, is we talk about business credit all the time. Tell the listeners, the differences in the kind of that's out there, and what you should be doing when you're playing offense. We talked about the obviously fixing credit is one, but now when we go ahead and we start building credit, we kind of
yeah,
reverse engineer how we got here. We're like, okay, you do this, and then you can acquire real estate, which we love because of all the
yeah,
cash flowing, the appreciation, the tax benefits, etc. But now let's go back to ground zero. Okay, I'm ready to build. Is all credit good credit? Is there
yeah.
such a thing as bad credit? Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it depends. And so I guess let me back up for a second for the listeners, and make sure that they understand like the full, like how we look at it as is a 4 process system here. So at Credit Counsel Elite, we're focusing on the training first, which is like the education, understanding how the banks and lenders are judging you, like flipping the script on the banks. Like this is real life monopoly, I like to call it, and getting money from the bank so that you can put it to work. But next, you always have to do some fixing, whether it's 300 or 800 club. After that, then you go to build. And the build, I'll come back to that in just a second. I'll deep dive into it. After the build, then, and you get all this funding, then you're going to leverage it and you're going to put it to work. So let's go back to build. Build, it's all about boosting up your score. get to the 800 club. You can do so with the knowledge, proper knowledge, within 30 days or less. And so by adding authorized users, once the fixing is completely done. After that, then it's all about putting the cards in the right order. Now, you mentioned, you asked as far as is all credit good credit and so forth. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, the leverage piece of it. If you're a real estate investor or a business owner or somebody looking to start a business, grow and scale a business, you're looking to leverage. And so if you're going to leverage, it's okay to do so, but make sure you're not doing it on the personal side. You want to do it on business credit that's not showing up on the personal. And so you're going to want to aim for 0% interest because you're a savvy investor, right? Like you don't want to pay an arm and a leg. And so to borrow this money, get 0% interest, it could be anywhere from 6 months to 22 months. On average, is about 15 or 18 months. And so when you do that properly, you can get $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 plus in new capital, and then actually be able to put it to work. However, there's other options out there too. Like I don't ever recommend only 0% credit because you're also going to want to get some personal credit. Why? Because the personal credit is going to make you have a sexy personal credit profile. It makes the business that much more attractive because you're a good steward of the personal side. And so the business bank accounts are going to want to, look at your personal profile and see that, oh, this bank over here trusts you with a big credit line and you're a good steward of it. We can match it or go even higher.
Yeah.
In addition to that, though, you're going to want to get some, travel cards, some cash reward cards, hotel cards, airline cards, some insurance cards. You're going to want to have like a wide arsenal of this, kind of like your tool belt. The more tools that you have, it just sets up a better lifestyle. It positions you for real, just real overall savings and success. And so, 0% is great, but if you're running ads, you may want to use a certain card that gets you 4x on your points.
Yeah.
More than the average or more than one that doesn't give you any points for it, and then you can get a free trip out of it. And so when you do it properly, you can have the beneficial lifestyle because you have to pay for these things anyway, but it can actually give you like a pat on the back after doing your fix and flip. You can have enough points for like a free vacation. And so just having that insurance and protecting yourself. So it will save you money and make you money when you do it properly.
Love that. And so powerful because, to your point, there's always like micro niches within the micro niche, right? Like some people say, hey, like I'm a travel hacker, therefore I'm going to go for these cards because they give X amount of promotional bonuses and points. And that gets me a first class ticket, or that gets me, the penthouse at this, prime hotel. And then there's the other side, which there's the business side. So, and I love what you said about the correlation, because I think that was an important kind of paradigm shift for me to understand that, okay, they're still looking at me as the PG, personal guarantor. And so if I have this credit card where I haven't even done my due diligence, or I should say, I haven't done my self-service and increased the limit, they're going to look at that, and that's going to take away from my ability to get more. Because they're like, well, why do you have $1,000 card when you're asked for a 20,000? Like, why should I? That's actually going to impact you. Is that right?
Of course. Yeah. And most people, this is the thing. Most people are, because it's not being taught in school, they don't know. It's not really being taught at your table at dinner. And so therefore, people don't know how the banks and lenders are judging you. So therefore you're just winging it. Yeah. And so when you wing it, there's a lot of frustration in the results that come back, and you're wondering why. But the banks need to lend. That's how they stay in business. And so when you acknowledge and realize there's actually 45 different metrics on how these banks and lenders are judging you, and when you know those rules, then you know how to position yourself. You know how to actually apply with confidence and boldness. And that's our goal at Credit Counsel Elite, to actually show you these things. And like you mentioned, there's people out there that do one-offs, just fixing credit or just business credit, just travel hacking. We like to encompass all of it. And obviously we have two different tiers with that, or several different tiers, but our inner circle, we like to expose all of that because it really unlocks like having your cake and eating it too. right? Like when we show you how to actually liquidate cards into cash and then be able to, now be able to build and grow a strong business, all 0% funding, get enough points for free travels. Let's show you actually how to travel hack and not waste those points. Let's show you how to actually set up a trust and start getting protection so you can set up generational wealth and get, infinite banking structures. It's like get your bookkeeping, tax filing, tax preparation properly set up so you can get massive amounts of funding, but then also
don't do that to him, Brandon. Come on now.
also be able to protect yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a hell of a receipts that you're just showing there. For those of you who are listening, Brandon had to show us how he's got a stack of credit cards readily available to him to leverage strategically, which is what I love about what you're saying here. So I like that. Yeah, you got to show the receipts sometimes. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you remember this, but you gave me a big insight on how it's a lever, but not something you should solely depend on. I don't know if you remember this. I'm gonna go back here. A couple months back, I had asked you. I was like, "Well, Brandon, like, this sounds great, man, but like, if you know this, first of all, like getting access to this information, and I would really encourage everyone to go listen to your podcast, Ready, Set, Go, Real Estate Investing, because you do actually break down in a whole episode the details, like the 45 different things that the banks look at, which so definitely give you a shout out there. But one of the things I had asked you is like, okay, if I know this, Brandon, like, do I ever need to like leverage other people's money ever again, aka like private money? Do you remember what you told me when I asked that? Because you gave me a really good answer. If not, I'll remind you. But do you remember what you told me when I asked you that?
Yeah. So I always, always, always still go for private money as well as even hard money if it makes sense. Yeah. And however, you want to have backup plans. So like those two first deals that I ended up jumping into, yes, I used credit, but I also saved up for 2 years. I worked my ass off to be able to save up $30,000. And so I had $30,000 just on as a safety net, just in case. Just in case if my plans messed up or I failed, I was going to be able to figure it out by paying those off. And obviously I leveraged more on the credit cards and it like I would have been underneath a little bit, but I wouldn't have been underneath too much.
Yeah.
And there's more chances of me succeeding than failing, And so therefore I'm a strong believer in, like, if you plan on doing real estate, great, because it'll change your life just like it did for you and me, However, when you're raising money from grandma or friends, family, or anybody, as you start building your influence and you start building your track record, make sure you're protecting them. Like raising money, it's a big, big deal. You shouldn't take that lightly at all. I've been screwed over several times on deals by being a private money lender. And it's devastating, especially if you don't have it. And many people are in those situations. So it's like they don't have an extra 50 or 100,000 or a couple 100,000 to lose. And if they trust you with it, you should be a good steward of it. So always have a backup plan with your own funding, your own credit, your own whatever. So I'm just a type of person, like, yes, I believe in burning all the boats and like, burn the ships, go all in, but I also believe in having a couple backup plans to make sure that, because I've never been a part of a real estate transaction that it went all hunky dory, like, it went perfect, right?
Yeah. Trust me.
It always turns into, oh shit, I didn't see that coming, and you got to be prepared and positioned to act quickly.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add to what you said just now, because one of the things you had told me on the mastermind call too is when I said, well, Brandon, you kind of have this unlocked recipe of getting unlimited amount of credit. Like, why not just do that? One of the things you had told me is, number one is, well, you can have other people's money be put to work and get the reward of helping them, seeing their money be put to work, which I love when you said that. And the other thing is, there's still a risk with these banks in the sense of, ask for money when you don't need it, but you don't want to be solely dependent on, because at the end of the day, they could dry up, right? Like that is a risk, a calculated risk. Is that not right?
Yeah, 2008, prime example. All the banks stopped lending. They all stopped lending. And so therefore, like, as much as, yes, they're giving out funding now, and I don't see them stopping, dude, it's totally out of our control.
Yeah.
Just like you can't give any guarantees when it comes down to fixing, because as bad
Yeah.
as you and I want it, or
Yeah.
whoever I'm talking to, like as bad as we want those things to be fixed,
Yeah.
like, and anything and everything can be, it's a matter of timing and it's out of our control.
Yeah.
So it's not just the three credit bureaus, it's thousands of third party agencies, it's banks, lenders, creditors, courts, it's like, and they can comply like they legally need to, or they can play games with you, install tactics. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with the banks. It's as bad as I want to get funding from them and I know how to talk to them. I know how to make it a low risk. I know how to get them to say yes, and they need to do funding today. One day if they don't, or something happens with their bank and they're like, you know what, we're cutting off credit lines, they could cut your limits, they could close out your accounts, and then what?
Mm.
So you should always have
Yeah.
backup plans for that.
Yeah. So Brandon, let me ask you, because you went there, and I love that you're talking about the ratio of like you're leveraging, but you're still putting in the work. Where again, in an ideal situation, you're creating active income that is also because everyone's big on like passive income, dude. Make real active income first before you start talking about passive income. Like you're putting like 1,000 or 2,000 bucks in like some account that's not like let's just we're
Yeah,
practitioners here in the lab. So make real money first, right? So let's say you make some real money first so that you can invest into assets. What do you say to someone who's listening that's like, okay, this is interesting. I got all this debt, and maybe I'm speaking to I'm not going to call it my old self, but I had my old paradigm and I would love for you to unlock it in real time. Like I'm hunting, I'm going to get the bread, but I have all this debt from before that I've used. Either it could have been for business, right, which was
yeah,
my situation. I had debt from business, etc. And I'm looking at myself, it's almost like a catch 22. I'm like, do I pay the debt down? And I know there's not a hard rule here because it's case by case, but like
yeah.
with the mindset that you have, do I pay the debt down first, or do I actually, is it in my best interest to save a couple, like you said, and keep some of that so I'm still liquid enough to run a play, knowing that if I, when I say run the play, maybe ask for funding, I might not look as good because I have all this outstanding credit. Like, is there some kind of ratio out there that's healthy for me to think about if I'm thinking I want to be liquid, but at the same time, if I pay off this debt, then now I'm not going to be as liquid? You see where I'm going?
Yeah, I do. And there's no one size fits all. Everybody's
Right.
circumstance is going to be different. So I don't want anybody to like, say, hey, Brandon told me I can, rack up the card or something like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's, I could give different advice if I knew more particulars about everybody's situation. What I
Yeah.
would say is this is at the end of the day, I never want anybody to be paying interest. I never want anybody to like, uh, to put themselves in a bad situation. I want you to have backup plans. And I want you, if you do have any quote unquote debt, make sure it's good debt. If
Mm.
it's not good debt, then figure out how to actually, if it's bad debt, then how do we pay it off sooner than later? And also this, if you have capital over here, I've met several people like this. It's devastating, but it's the lack of education that's being taught in the school systems, and just like, I wouldn't say common knowledge, but it's I'm talking to really intelligent human beings, like people that work for the government. That's a bad example. But like high
That's
level
fair.
individuals, high IQ individuals that
Yeah.
have money in their savings account. Let's say
Yeah.
they have 100 grand in their savings account, not making a damn thing on it, but that's in their savings account. Just that's their savings. They don't touch that. That's their rule.
Yeah.
However, they got $80,000 or $100,000 in credit card debt that they're paying 20% interest on. I'm like,
Mm.
where does this? It doesn't make sense. How long you've been paying this, and it's going out of control. It's getting higher and higher because you're only making the minimums. Use your cash, pay it off. Now you get all these credit lines increased. You know what I'm saying? Like save money right from the start. And I know that scares people.
It does. Yeah, it's
It's
almost like a cushion for them. It's almost like this psychological safety blanket of I have these reserves and therefore I'm still willing to pay 17% interest on this high interest
yeah,
credit card with a high balance but I have that peace of mind that I look in my bank account and I have this amount of savings. And if I'm honest, Brandon, like I had to have a paradigm and shift as well. And your
yeah,
mastermind helped that to rethink of how I look at money, because we were just talking about this offline. Is you like I went when I joined your mastermind, I went really heavily into paying debt off that would is in high interest first, like strategically, to then be able to unlock way more funds
Yeah.
because I had a higher credit score. And by the way, your interest rates are going to be lower now on like a 30-year mortgage, which makes a huge difference, right? For those who are investors, like
Tens of
that's
thousands up to hundreds of thousands. Crazy.
right.
Yeah.
Like an interest, right? Like we don't even do the math. And that's usually the issue. I think the fundamental issue, Brandon, when I got into this space and I hadn't done the math, like before
Yeah.
I was listening to Bigger Pockets. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, one door. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to house hack. Great. And like before I had one of my other mentors who pulled me into the short-term rental space, I just hadn't done the math. I'm like, why would I want to have a property that's 40% occupied and not 100% occupied? Dude,
Yeah.
it's 'cause you haven't done the math, right? So I think it's because we know there's some properties they don't need to be 100% booked and they're making like 4 to 5x what you traditionally make, right? You and I both know that. So I think it goes back to what you're saying, going back to how I opened, right? It's the all principles are microcosms of each other. Do the math. And the math sometimes ain't mathin', even if it psychologically makes us feel good, it just ain't right. And I will say this to someone who's listening, that it feels uncomfortable to go left when everyone's going right, to like take that money and pay it off and then not have the security blanket. And by the way, it's not an instant, because you and I both know I was hitting you up. I was like, dude, like I'm not getting the instant approvals now. And we want that instant gratification. Like I paid it off, now I get this. No. It takes a little while, right?
Yeah.
So I would just leave them with that, having gone through the process. What more do you want to add to that though? Because I think it's a very interesting conversation we're having around that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's because we can get stuck in our own ways and think what we're doing is correct. What I would say is seek counsel, seek guidance. However, make sure you're verifying that guidance. Who is it coming from? Don't go to somebody asking about real estate investing if they don't have any doors themselves. Don't go to somebody that only has one or two. Go to somebody that knows what the heck they're talking about and get a third party like person, no strings attached type of blunt advice. Because that's really, and you can make your own decisions at the end of the day, but allow them to, you open up the books and you show them exactly what's up. And that is where you give the opportunity to get true coaching. And so just like you said in the beginning, like, investing in yourself, there's nothing better, because you're getting around high level individuals that not just want something and desire something bigger and better, but they are driven to actually succeed. And most of us aren't growing up in those type of circles or those influences. And most of us that are investing in ourselves are like the one within our families. Like everybody that's listening to this right now, like you're probably the one within your family or within your own circle. And there's no coincidence to that. You're the one that actually like showing up, participating, taking action, taking notes, like writing down this stuff, soaking up knowledge so that you could better yourself. Yeah. And so it's just like, it's important to invest in yourself. It's important to get out of your own comfort zone and see what other opportunities are out there and be able to realize, like, if you're paying any interest, I want you to stop that right away so you can start saving money, because it adds up, and get your rates to a good spot so that you can start saving money and you can position yourself to be able to unlock an enormous amount of funding. When opportunities come by, you can get that liquid cash and be able to put it to work. And ideally, you just start getting some smart investments and that cash flow like crazy. Like we have a bunch of real estate deals that come across our, like opportunities that come across our desk each and every week. I only take on 1 to 2 per year. That's it. But I go for home runs. Yeah. Like I'm not like, if it is making less than $250,000, I'm not interested at all. Yeah. At all.
What do you just on that quick topic, what do you what's your exit strategy on those? Are you doing BRRRR? Are you doing flip? Are you doing STRs?
We do BRRRR for everything. And so we try to keep it, if it makes more sense to like one of the properties, we ended up netting $475,000 from it, just from flipping it. And so if we would have refied it, I would have had all my money back, but it would have the monthly payment and overall the cash flow from it would have taken much longer to be able to get $475,000.
Yeah.
So, I could have held it a couple years, but it just, and then the appreciation would have caught up, but it wouldn't have made sense. So we sell things like that. Otherwise, if we can keep it and we can burr it, we can do Airbnb out here, and it takes care of us, cash flow wise, and we get the tax benefits. We get all of our money back plus some. That's a good day.
Are you doing like a 1031 exchange on some of these?
We haven't we haven't done. So right now I'm selling off all my Ohio properties. I only have a couple left. I'm in contract with all of them right now, which is great.
Nice.
But we're not doing 1031s on them. We
How
will.
come?
It's just it's like
difficult.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything to put into. I just don't want the headache. Honestly,
Yeah.
the whole reason I'm selling the Ohio stuff is for like I read this book, 10x is easier than 2x.
Of course, the Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, for anybody that hasn't read that, what that book is basically the 80-20 rule. And so it just highlighted to me like, hey, these distractions, even though it's only taking maybe an hour to a couple hours per month, I'm starting to neglect it over in Ohio, and it's not worth it to me. It was great in the beginning season. I don't need 10K a month anymore. I have bigger opportunities out here that I'd rather stay laser beam focused on.
Yeah. I love that, by the way. Just trimming the fat, for lack of better words. That's exactly kind of where and it's good to see that the evolution as an investor. Just looking back, you're like, okay, this is like the new normal now. Very interesting. Look, while we're on this topic, I want to ask you. One of the things that we often don't talk about, I know I had asked you this in our one of our sessions, is it's important for us to understand how the banks work, but it's also another play to become the bank. Super high level. Tell us, what is possible. Make us dream a little bit here, Brandon, right? Because we got the dreamer here who turned a vision into reality. Tell them a little bit about how you can pull a bunch of different levers. And my audience knows I've talked about whole life insurance policies. I've talked about, just levers on levers, double, triple dipping. Show us how it's done. How do you look at that? And how do you use this credit as a way to now even become the bank?
Yeah, so a couple different things. I like to open up the life insurance policies right away, especially if you don't have an opportunity to be able to invest right away. Then get the funding, invest into the life insurance, and then you can pay that back either right away and take out a loan against it and arbitrage the difference, or wait until the 0% interest is up and then pay it off beforehand. Either way, it's not a bad idea, but now it gives you the opportunity that you can take out a loan against that life insurance and you can start investing in certain opportunities. And again, I'm very strategic. I'm very, call it greedy or whatever. It's like, there's a lot of noise out there. I'm looking for one or two amazing opportunities throughout the year. Okay. A lot of people get impatient and they're going for, and these are people that I respect and I, friends and so forth as well. But on certain real estate deals, they'll go after high risk opportunities like out here in California where it's $1 million plus home, and they're banking to make 20 to maybe 50 grand if everything goes all fine and dandy. And again, you and I talked about it. I've never been a part of one transaction that it went perfect.
Yeah.
So therefore when things do come off the rails, then it's like that 20K or that 30, 40, 50K profits that you dreamed of, now it's down to some close calls. And now you're losing money. And that's risky to me. That's why a minimum I go for $250,000, or I like to aim for $500,000. Mm-hmm. And if I can do that and just take down one or two amazing opportunities that are off market, that I can create value, that I can get the tax benefits, cash flow, no money into it, like that is what I look at as successful, because I want to eliminate as much risk as I have and get as much reward as I can get. And so those are some of the pieces that I do. Also, we do private money lending as well from time to time. Last year, there were several deals that I invested in that unfortunately people went through tough times, and things come up that now that's why lawyers come into play, but it is what it is, Yeah.
Do you, I know some, we just had a private money,
Shout out to Michelle Bryan. She came on. She was talking about private money. I mean, there's a lot of ways, though, and I think you and I talked about this that you can, have second position and all
Yeah.
that. Does that? Do you feel that those have their own set of their own risks? I guess because it's second position and all that,
Yeah.
and you have to wait. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of second position, honestly.
Yeah.
I also like to do assignment
Mm.
of rents just in case.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
not just promissory notes, but assignment of rents. I like to record the lien position on there as well.
Lean position. Yeah.
Yeah, there's many ways to protect yourself. What I would recommend is is always sit down with a lawyer first.
Yeah.
Always sit down with a lawyer, and maybe you need to do it for the first one or two. After that, you kind of just build the relationships, and then you kind of
Hmm.
lock things in. But long story short, is any partnerships or anything where you're being the bank, treat it like you're going to get a divorce down the road,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you're excited now. You're excited and like pumped up. But then when things happen or lives change, we're all humans, and sometimes people act differently.
Oh
And
yeah. There's money involved. Yeah.
yeah, so you want to just protect yourself. Like when people's backs are against the wall, they may do something foolish, and you don't want to be the one regretting it.
All right. That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. All right, Brandon, make us dream here. I want to go with a bang. What's possible out there? You've been in this space for like over a decade plus. You've helped people. What the largest line you've seen someone get? Just one line. I know we do an accumulation. You showed your stacks. We know you got receipts. But like what's possible out there? Like what could I possibly get? Is it 1 million? Is it 2? Is
Yeah,
it 100K? Is it like what is possible for our listeners? You're like, hold on, let me
yeah,
just go re-listen to that and tap in here because there's
yeah.
something that I didn't know was possible, right?
Yeah, the largest somebody has done on their very first mass apply was 742,000 within our community.
Wow.
742,000. So that is wild. We've had plenty of people over 500. We've had a couple people over 600,000. But most people just realistically are going to find themselves high twos to three, 400,000.
Yeah.
Um, we have a strong average right now of about 340, I think 347,000, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, what I would say is this: everything's possible if you show up and participate and like play full out. It's not going to be as simple or as easy or as sexy as like everybody wants it to be. It's not that instant gratification that us millennials want or what we see on social media. I've been doing real estate for the last 10 plus years, and I've been playing around with credit for 13 plus years. And so it's just one of those things that like our hearts are in the right place, just like you mentioned before. Like we care about your
Yeah.
success because we know what it can do for you. But you're gonna want to, the people that show up, the people that participate, the people that bug the hell out of us asking a million questions, and I'm okay with it. I have no problem being repetitive as much until it clicks.
Yeah.
But when, because there's nothing more um satisfactory. Like it's just, it feels really good
Fulfilling.
when,
Fulfilling.
yeah, fulfilling in general. Like when we see the aha moment on people,
Yeah.
they're like, oh man, it feels so, I'm so glad you had that moment, because we know that they've been working their butt off towards it. And when they're in the middle of their mass apply or whatever it is, and they get that, it's a good feeling. And we know that they're going to be positioned to be able to redo this on their own successfully every 6 months for life. And we don't
Yeah.
need to, they don't need to be a slave to us. They don't need to keep coming back and like
Yeah.
paying us all this extra money. Like they can be equipped and positioned to not just do it for them, but their significant other, business partner, friends, family, kids. Like, and that's what gets me really pumped up.
Yeah, yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's one of those things like, mind that's expanded can never go back to its old dimensions. You
Yeah.
can't unlearn this stuff, right? Like,
Yep.
which is what I love about what you've put together and community you've put together. Uh, Listen, I'm so curious, man. You're a young hustler. You're just the best. The best has yet to come.
Yeah.
What are some of the aspirations, man, that I want to get here on the air while we had you in the lab in
Yep.
Q1 of 2025? What is, because I'm a huge believer of visualization, putting things out there, not like in the universe without taking action, but as a matter of fact, just letting people know what you're interested in so that you'll attract those right people. What is something that's on your radar for the next maybe year, for the next 2, 3, 5 years? What's next, man? I know you got like a speed, you got like you already got a whole catalyst behind you for this empire. What is next for Brandon?
Well, there's levels to everything, man. So we're
Yeah,
not done. We're just getting started, and we're
just
very
get warmed
blessed.
up.
Yeah, we're excited for it. There's with business, I feel like we're just in the beginning, truthfully, because we're starting to have the aha moments right now in business of like,
Mm,
really dialing in the KPIs and having the just understanding how to really run businesses. And
mhm.
it's been hard. It's
Yeah,
been crazy because right when you think you're crushing it, you're like, okay, but if we want to take it here,
yeah,
it's like there's levels and there's ceilings you got to break through, and you don't know what you don't know. No matter how
yeah,
much mentors and guidance, my mentor can only pour value into me to what I'm sharing with him, and if I don't know what to share with him, then it's like, you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
And so anyway, so business wise, we have plans to keep growing and do hit some certain records this year that we're stoked for. Jen and I just bought our dream home. We just got married finally after 9 years
congratulations,
in
congratulations.
October. Appreciate you. So we would like to start having some kids in the new dream home, and we want to knock out some more traveling towards the end of this year, go for a couple months. But we have our San Diego Credit Counsel Elite Summit coming up this April 3rd and 4th. So stoked. It's the first time ever that we're doing it to open it up to the public.
Nice.
And usually it's just for our mastermind, our internal members, right? Our inner circle. And so even in the past, like just the last time that we had it here in San Diego, we had our 90-day challenge members paying $2,500 to actually show up per person. So if it was a
Yeah.
couple, $5,000 to actually be there. And so now we're allowing all of our members to go for free, but we're also making it ridiculously affordable and cheap for our anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to actually show up for general admission or VIP to the event. Where I lose money on that, but I know we're going to be able to impact people and serve them to the best
Yeah.
ability. And I got some of my badass friends coming in to speak, and just wild stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
super stoked for that.
That's amazing. I mean, you're building that brand. There's no direct ROI, but the that you can measure, but truly it has a huge exponential impact. So I just want to thank you for always continuing to raise the bar, take the leaps, because you're always having a bigger impact than you can even realize. Even a
Yeah.
show like this, you taking the time to share this wisdom, planting the seed. You don't always get to see, you know, the you know the benefits of your seeds, but they're out there, man. So wanted
Well,
to
you know
thank
what's
you.
funny, and I appreciate that. You know what's crazy is that there's always somebody watching.
Yes.
There's always somebody watching, whether it's your kids, whether it's social
Yeah.
media, whether it's people, and even if they're just watching from a distance, it's like they're watching. So keep on
Mhm.
showing up, do what the average person wouldn't,
Yeah.
and lay your heart out on the line for the bigger purpose, because there's always going to be haters.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're dedicated to your mission and you got a God given talent or ability, like you should put it out there and help out more people. So
It is your duty and obligation to do that. Absolutely. Love that. Well, listen, Brandon, man, you over deliver like you always do, always. I know where I can find you, but where can the people
yeah.
tap in with what you're doing?
Yeah. On social media, you can find me on Instagram. It's Brandon Elliott Investments. Otherwise, on Instagram, you can go to our business page, Credit Counsel Elite. Um, Facebook, you can find me there as well. Otherwise, check out our website. Just go to creditcounselelite.com. It's www.creditcounselelite.com. There's a quick 5-10 minute video on there that explains more about what the heck we do, and probably will answer some questions for you. But after that, it may spark some good questions for you to ask. And at that point, you can just book a call with either myself or somebody on our team to be able to hear more about your situation.
Love it. Well, we thank you again. We can't thank you for coming to the lab, dropping all these gems. You guys make sure you give Brandon Elliott the follow that he deserves. He's just getting warmed up, y'all, and so are you. With that said, we are out.
Experimentation. I believe there are two critical components that will help you achieve your goals very quickly and succeed. Number one, it's information like this that you received on a show, in an episode, and content that you can find on my YouTube channel or anybody's channel. And then there's a community. And the way we've been able to expedite our process, the way people in our community, people that we consult, mastermind members, whoever, they get the information on an episode like this, but then they also have the support, whether it's me guiding them or being guided through a community. There is an opportunity for you listening to be able to expedite your process or even expedite your results that you're seeking by being a part of the community. If that is what you're interested in, we at Experiment Nation happen to have a community devoted to helping maximize your occupancy and your profitability altogether, regardless of which market that you are in. And for that reason, you have an opportunity where you can go to experimentrealestate.com/submit if you're looking to work in an environment that can help you prosper faster. Call out any areas that you might not be familiar in, especially the blind spots. That's where a guide comes in hand, and I would be a pleasure and honor to be your guide. But in order to make sure you're a good fit, make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com/submit so that my team can go ahead and take it and see if you're a good fit to join the mastermind and the multiple programs that we have. In addition to that, I'm also now a YouTube partner, which means that I want to give you more access to information, more access to Q&As, more access to the questions that actually come out of our mastermind that help people expedite the process. We've seen people get anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 to even $7,000 a month net on just one door by applying the strategies that we use by working with corporations and furnished accommodation in a very strategic way. So if you're interested, make sure you also subscribe, because I'm going to have different tiers that's on YouTube now that we've become YouTube partner, to continue to be the bridge to your success in your lab. And your lab means your life, your goals, or wherever you're trying to head. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/real estate experiment. We'll be there. You can also look us up at Midterm Rental Insurance Experiment. We will be there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, because that's when you'll know the tiers that are available to you that make sense for you in your marketplace for your results. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Let's build.